Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into a topic today that I think is really relevant to all of us, especially you with your interest in personal growth and, well, just finding that sense of peace, right? We're
Mm,
talking about social media
yeah.
and its impacts on mental health. We've got a whole bunch of research articles, opinions, think pieces.
Lots to unpack.
Yeah, tons to unpack. So
Should we jump right in?
let's jump in.
Okay, great.
It's kind of it's a big topic,
It is.
but I think it's something we can all relate to, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, social media, obviously, it gives us all of these amazing ways to connect with people and learn new things.
Right, exactly.
But there's a flip side.
Dark side.
Yeah, a shadow side. And if we want to make sure that we're using social media in a way that actually helps us, like really helps us.
Benefits us.
Yes, benefits us, we have to understand both sides of that.
Both sides.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's start with the good stuff,
right.
right? Like the positives. I mean, like you said, it's incredible for connecting with people, staying in touch with family and friends, finding new communities, like people who share your interests. For you, have you found social media helpful in connecting with, other people who are also on this, like, personal growth journey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the potential to find like-minded people, like you said, communities and, even resources, it's incredible.
It's huge.
Yeah, and this is a big but.
Okay.
The research is really clear on this. Spending too much time on these platforms can actually start to really affect our mental health.
Negatively. Okay.
And we're talking about things like comparing ourselves to others, like constantly.
Yeah.
That feeling of, oh, I'm missing out, FOMO. It's a real thing.
FOMO, yeah.
And it can even lead to like more serious stuff like anxiety and depression, and all of that is like the opposite of, what you're looking for with peace and all that, right?
Absolutely.
So have you ever noticed yourself feeling those kinds of things after spending time on social media? Like any of that resonate?
100%. Yeah. It's almost like that sometimes it's like a love-hate relationship.
Yes.
I'm drawn to it, but then I come away feeling kind of icky,
Exactly.
which I guess makes sense because I was reading in some of these articles that, like, social media is literally designed to be addictive.
It's true.
It's not just like in our heads, that feeling of I just have to keep scrolling,
You're not imagining it.
even though I probably should be doing something else.
Right, exactly. It's not by chance that you feel that pull.
Yeah.
These platforms are designed, they're engineered to keep us on them as long as possible.
Hooked.
Hooked, yeah. Like, think about it, infinite scroll. There's always something else to see.
Yeah.
You never hit the bottom.
Right.
Those notifications that are always popping up.
Yeah. Like demanding your attention.
Exactly. They don't want you to forget that they're there.
So it's like they're really like playing on our like basic human wiring.
They
Yeah,
are.
like, be connected.
Yeah. Social media taps right into our brain's reward system.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Each comment, each notification, it triggers this little release of dopamine,
Dopamine.
which makes us feel good. The problem is our brains, they start to crave that dopamine.
Okay.
And it becomes this cycle where we need more and more engagement to feel that same level of satisfaction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
So we're basically training our brains to be like more distracted and less content
that's the risk.
in real life.
Yeah. I mean, over time, it can actually change our brain chemistry.
No way.
Yes. Making it harder to focus, to really be present,
Right.
and to find satisfaction in things outside of the digital world, like in the real world.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah. But it also shows us how important it is to develop like a more mindful approach to how we use social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, mindful social media use.
Yes.
What does that even mean?
Well, it's about being intentional,
Right.
aware of what we're doing. It's about making choices, about how and why we're using it instead of just passively consuming whatever comes across our screens.
Okay, so let's get practical then. What can we actually do
Yes.
to break free of this cycle and create a healthier, more mindful relationship with social media?
Well, the good news is there are a lot of things you can do.
Okay, good.
One of the most effective things is setting really clear boundaries.
Boundaries. Okay.
Yeah. This could mean setting time limits
Okay.
for how long you're on.
Right.
You can even use an app, to track how much time you're spending on social media.
Oh, okay.
Or you could create no phone zones.
No phone zones. I like that.
Yeah.
Like certain times and
Yeah,
places.
Exactly. So maybe no phones at the dinner table.
Oh, I love that. I think that's such a good idea, especially like you were talking about before, those real life connections.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like having those no phone zones can really make space for those to happen.
Yes. It can encourage more meaningful conversation,
Yeah.
deeper connection. Another really powerful strategy is, curating your feed.
Curating.
Yeah, being really selective about who you follow, stop and think, does this account make me feel good? Does it align with my values, my goals? If
Yeah.
not,
Unfollow.
unfollow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's not just about, like, getting rid of the negative, but it's about filling it with, like, good, positive things, too.
It is.
Intentionally.
You want to proactively choose accounts that inspire you, uplift you.
Right.
Maybe it's personal growth, creativity, humor, whatever brings you joy.
Yeah, whatever brings you joy. It's about taking control
It is.
of our digital environment and making it, like, a place that supports our well-being instead of, like,
Instead of draining it.
yeah, exactly, draining it. So what about, like, sometimes the best thing is just to, like, step away altogether, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Like a digital detox.
Exactly.
Is that helpful?
Even a short break can be so helpful. Just a few hours,
Okay.
a day maybe.
Okay.
It can help you reset, recharge,
Yeah.
reconnect with yourself, with the world around you. And it reminds you, that you have the power to choose how you engage with technology. It doesn't have to control you.
That is a good reminder.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like,
Powerless.
yeah, powerless,
Yeah.
at the mercy of our devices.
But we're not.
But we're not. Okay, good. I like that. So another thing you mentioned earlier was practicing awareness, like, being mindful. What does that look like, practically speaking?
It can be as simple as pausing before you open that app,
Okay.
taking a breath,
Okay.
and asking yourself, why am I doing this? What am I hoping to get out of it?
Okay. Just bringing that awareness to it. It seems so simple.
It is, but
yeah.
it makes a big difference. It shifts you from being passive to being active.
Okay.
You're choosing, you're not just reacting.
Right. Instead of just, like, mindlessly scrolling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we're being intentional about our time and energy online.
Yes. And when you start doing that, you begin to notice how social media affects you subtly.
Really?
Your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors. You start to see those connections.
Wow. So it's almost like a mindfulness practice in itself.
You could say that.
Just paying attention to our internal experience
Yeah.
as we navigate this digital world.
That's a great way to put it. And the more we do that, the more we're empowered to make choices that support our well-being.
I like that.
So sometimes that choice will be logging off, closing the app,
Stepping away.
stepping away, and choosing to engage in the real world instead.
I mean, there's so much beauty and connection out there beyond the screen.
There is. And it's easy to forget that.
It is.
Yeah. So it's important to nurture those real-life connections.
Real-life connections.
Yeah. Spending time with loved ones, doing hobbies,
Mm-hmm.
getting out in nature.
Yeah,
These things nourish us.
they do.
They bring us real and lasting happiness.
So it sounds like it's all about finding that balance, like enjoying the good parts of social media,
Mm-hmm.
but not letting it, take over our lives or disconnect us from the things that really matter.
Finding a balance that works for you, your lifestyle, your goals.
Right. So it's personal.
It is. It's not about perfection. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here.
Yeah.
And as you experiment with different strategies, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Be patient.
Be patient, yes, to develop those new habits, to break old patterns.
It's a journey,
It is a journey.
not a
But
destination.
it's a journey worth taking.
I love that.
Because when you create the healthier relationship with social media, you free yourself to experience life more fully, to connect more deeply, to create a world that's more in line with your values.
That's so powerful.
It is.
It's really a reminder that we have so much more control over our digital lives than we realize.
You do.
And that with a little bit of, like, awareness and intention,
Mm-hmm.
we can change our relationship with social media from one of dependence to one of empowerment.
Absolutely. It's about reclaiming your attention, your time, your energy, and using it to create a life that's meaningful, fulfilling, and true to who you are.
I love that. So we've talked a lot about, like, the potential downsides, the shadow side of social media.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I want to, like, acknowledge the good stuff too.
Of course.
Because, like, obviously, millions of people use social media every day to connect, to share, to create. You mentioned before finding like-minded communities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's huge for a lot of people, right?
It is. And, I think it's important to remember that social media itself isn't inherently good or bad.
Okay.
It's a tool.
Right.
Like any tool, it can be used in ways that are helpful or harmful.
Mm-hmm.
The key is being conscious, intentional, being aware of how it's affecting us.
So it's about finding that, like, sweet spot
Mm-hmm.
where we can harness the power of social media for good
Yes.
without letting it take over our lives or, negatively affect our mental health.
Finding that balance, using it to enhance your life, not detract from it.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about a topic that I know is close to your heart.
Okay?
manifestation.
Yes.
I know you're like really interested in using the power of your mind to create the life that you want. And I'm curious to explore how social media kind of fits into all of that.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
Because manifestation is really about aligning our thoughts, feelings, actions with our desires.
right.
So we can attract those things into our experience.
Okay. So social media can either help or hurt that process, I guess,
It can.
depending on how we use it.
It can.
Okay, so give us like the breakdown here.
Okay. On the one hand, social media can be a really powerful tool for visualization and inspiration.
Okay.
We can use it to create vision boards.
Mm-hmm.
We can follow accounts that align with our goals. We can surround ourselves with images and messages that reinforce what we desire.
So it's like, a digital manifestation toolkit in a way.
It is. It's like
Yeah.
having all of these resources right at your fingertips. And then when we share our goals and intentions online, we create a sense of accountability. And we often find support in like-minded people.
Right. It's like, putting it out there,
Yes.
making it
Yes.
real,
Exactly.
leveraging the power of community.
Yes, exactly. But on the other hand, social media can also be this breeding ground for comparison,
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
self-doubt,
Mm-hmm.
negative self-talk, all of which can sabotage our efforts to manifest what we want.
Yeah. It's like that whole highlight reel effect can be a real killer.
It can, because when we're constantly looking at images of other people's seemingly perfect lives,
Yeah.
it's really easy to start feeling like we're not enough,
Like we're falling behind.
like we're not doing enough. Exactly. And that kind of energy is the opposite of what we want to be putting out there when we're trying to manifest.
Yeah.
So how do we navigate that tension?
Yeah, that's the question.
How do we make social media work for our manifestation journey and not against us?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. So tell me, how do we do it?
Well, that is a great question, and it's something that I think we should explore further,
Okay.
maybe after a quick break.
So how do we navigate that tension? How do we make social media work for our manifestation journey and not against us?
Well, it all comes back to, mindful engagement. Like we were talking about earlier, it's about awareness, intention, and being willing to really curate our online experience.
Okay, so it's not just about what we're looking at, but how we're looking at it.
Exactly. Let's say you're, I don't know, scrolling in Instagram and you see someone posting about like their amazing new job or their dream vacation or, their quote unquote perfect relationship.
The highlight reel.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in how things look on the surface
Yeah,
and start comparing ourselves. And then boom, you're feeling envious, inadequate.
been there.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. Especially, if you're already feeling a little bit down or insecure.
Mhm.
And that's where that mindfulness piece comes in. Instead of just getting swept away by those feelings, we can actually stop, take a breath, and ask ourselves, like, okay, what's the story I'm telling myself right now?
Mhm.
Is this thought helpful? Is it actually moving me towards my goals? Or is it just making me feel bad?
It's about challenging those thoughts, right?
It is. It's about replacing them with something more empowering.
Okay, so instead of saying like, oh, I'm so behind or I'll never have that, it's about,
Yeah. Instead of that, just try reminding yourself that everyone's journey is different. We're all on our own unique paths.
right, different timelines.
Exactly. Comparing ourselves to others is just a recipe for feeling bad. There's no point.
Focus on your own lane.
Exactly. Run your own race. Celebrate your own progress, however big or small.
I like that. So I guess that brings us back to, being intentional about who we're following,
It does.
creating our social media feeds.
Yeah, remember we were talking about unfollowing those accounts that trigger negative emotions and like actively seeking out accounts that, inspire us, lift us up.
Okay, so when it comes to manifestation, that means surrounding ourselves with content that like aligns with our goals.
Yes, if you're trying to manifest, let's say, a healthier lifestyle,
Yeah.
you might want to follow accounts that share healthy recipes, workout tips, or, just inspiring stories about people who've achieved their fitness goals.
Right, so it's like creating a virtual vision board, filling our feeds with things that keep us motivated, keep us focused on what we want to create.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of sharing your own journey, too.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, like when you post about your goals, your progress, your challenges,
Hmm.
you're putting your intentions out there, you're inviting support from like-minded people.
It's like you're making a public declaration, which kind of helps with the accountability too, right?
It does. It can really solidify our commitment. And when we share our authentic experiences,
Hmm.
the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Mhm.
it gives others permission to do the same.
It makes it okay to not be perfect all the time.
Exactly. We build community, we create connection, and that can be really empowering.
So we're shifting the focus from competition to collaboration,
Yes,
comparison to connection.
exactly. And when we do that, social media becomes this like much more supportive space,
Mm.
positive space for manifestation.
It's almost like we're creating this like collective energy field
Mm-hmm.
that like helps us all move closer to our goals.
That's beautiful. And even if you're not comfortable, sharing your whole journey publicly, you can still use social media for like personal visualization, inspiration, like saving quotes that resonate with you, creating private Pinterest boards, whatever works for you.
Hmm.
The key is just to be intentional, mindful.
Right. So it's not about abandoning social media altogether.
No.
It's about using it in a way that like aligns with our values, supports our goals.
Exactly. It's about taking back your power, choosing how you want to engage.
I love that. It's about moving from a place of reactivity to intentionality.
Yes, and when we do that, social media can become a really powerful ally on our manifestation journey.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the individual level, but what about the bigger picture?
Mm-hmm.
Like social media's impact on society as a whole. I mean, these platforms are everywhere.
They are.
They're shaping how we communicate, how we get our information, how we see the world.
It's true. Social media has fundamentally changed the way we interact with each other and with the world. And it's important to look at both the positive and the negative sides of that.
Okay, so let's start with the positives. What are some of the ways that social media has been a force for good?
Well, I think it's created some amazing opportunities for connection and community.
Yeah.
People can connect with others who share their interests no matter where they are. It's given a voice to people who might not have had one otherwise.
That's a big one.
And it's been a really powerful tool for social change, activism. People can organize and mobilize around issues they care about, often in ways that wouldn't have been possible before.
Yeah, like we've seen so many examples of that. The Arab Spring, the hashtag #MeToo movement.
Exactly. And it's also created opportunities for businesses, especially small businesses,
Oh, right.
to connect with their customers, build their brands, and reach a wider audience. It's really leveled the playing field in a lot of ways.
Yeah, anyone with an internet connection can potentially reach a global audience now. It's pretty incredible.
It is, but of course there are also some significant downsides.
Right, like what we were talking about before, the potential for addiction, comparison,
Mm-hmm.
negative self-talk.
Yeah, all of that. But there's also the issue of misinformation, the spread of fake news, which can really distort our perceptions and make it hard to know what to believe.
Yeah, it's like information overload. How do you even know what's true anymore?
Right, it's tough. And that can lead to anxiety, polarization, a sense of distrust in like institutions and authority figures.
Mm.
We're seeing that play out all around us.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's the issue of privacy and data security. Every time we use social media, we're leaving a digital trail of our activities, our interests, our relationships, and that data is incredibly valuable to companies who want to sell us things or influence our behavior.
Yeah, it's a little creepy when you think about how much they know about us and how they might be using that information.
It's definitely something to be aware of. We need to be more mindful of the trade-offs we're making when we use these platforms and take steps to protect our privacy.
Okay, so it's not just about individual responsibility, but also about holding these companies accountable.
Absolutely. We need more transparency from them, more accountability, more ethical practices.
This is a conversation that's not going away anytime soon. Social media is just becoming more and more integrated into our lives.
It is. We're all still figuring out how to navigate this new landscape, and it's going to take a collective effort to make sure that social media is used for good.
It's a responsibility we all share.
We do, and it's one we can't afford to ignore.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. The downsides of social media, mindful engagement, manifestation, the societal impact. It's a complex issue.
It is, but the most important thing is that we keep talking about it.
Keep the conversation going.
Yes. Stay informed and empower ourselves to make conscious choices about how we engage with social media.
It's about taking back control, reclaiming our attention, and using these platforms in a way that, feels good to us,
Mm-hmm.
aligns with our values, supports our well-being.
Exactly. And if we can do that, I really believe social media can be a force for good.
I like that. I think that's a good note to end on.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been such a great conversation.
Yes, it has.
And to our listeners, we hope you found this helpful and empowering.
Yes.
Remember, you have the power to create a positive and fulfilling social media experience.
And if you'd like to learn more, we've included some helpful resources in the show notes.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep shining your light.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Wow, so we've talked about a lot when it comes to social media.
We have lots to consider.
The good, the bad, the ugly, the manifestation part. As we wrap up our deep dive here, what's the one big thing you really want listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is you have the power. You can choose how social media affects you.
Okay,
It doesn't have to be this thing that controls you, your mood, your feelings of self-worth. It's not in the driver's seat. You are.
that's a really good point. It's so easy to feel kind of overwhelmed, like we're just along for the ride.
Yeah, but remember all those things we talked about. Setting boundaries, being choosy about who you follow, being more mindful. Those are tools. They're in your toolbox.
To take back control.
Exactly. Be proactive. Don't just let the algorithm decide how you're going to feel.
Choosy, right.
Choose, yes. And one of the most powerful things you can do is just pay attention to how certain accounts, certain posts make you feel.
Okay, so notice.
Notice if you see an account and you're like, ugh, here we go again with the comparison, the self-doubt. It's not serving you.
Get rid of it.
Unfollow. Yeah, you deserve to feel good.
It's almost like digital decluttering, like getting rid of all that stuff that just weighs you down.
I love that analogy. It's funny, the accounts that trigger those feelings, they're often the ones that are the most curated.
Like the perfect shiny surface.
Yeah, nothing but highlights. But that brings us back to something we touched on before, creating your own highlight reel.
Focusing on your own path, your own journey, not getting distracted by someone else's, online persona.
Exactly. So here's something to think about. If social media is all about showing our best selves, how can you create a highlight reel that feels authentic and fulfilling for you?
Feel online and off. That's a big question.
It is. It's a challenge to be ourselves, truly ourselves, online, but it's also an opportunity.
To define what matters, what success really means to us.
Yes. To celebrate your unique path, to share your story in a way that feels true, not just picture perfect.
So it's about being real,
It is.
relatable, authentic.
And that's what's truly inspiring, way more than some, perfectly curated facade.
Totally agree. When we show up as our true selves, it gives other people permission to do the same.
It does. That's what social media should be about. Real connection. Sharing our human experience, the good, the bad, all of it.
And who knows, maybe by choosing to be more real, more vulnerable online, we can actually change the whole culture.
It's possible. Make it a more supportive space.
Yeah, we all have a role to play in that.
We do. And remember, even if you don't have a huge following or the perfect feed, your voice matters. Your story matters.
You matter.
You matter. Yes, we all have something to offer. And social media can be a really powerful way to connect with people who resonate with your message.
To share your gifts, to make a difference.
Exactly. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by social media, remember, you have the power to change your experience.
Start small, be mindful, focus on what truly matters.
And if you feel inspired to use social media for good, don't be afraid to share your story, connect with others, let your voice be heard. It all comes back to choice. It's yours to make.
Well, thank you so much. This has been such an insightful conversation.
It really has. Thank you.
To all of you listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring. You have the power to make your social media experience a positive one.
And if you want to explore any of these ideas further, we've got some great resources in the show notes.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep shining your light.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.